All right. How you feel? Oh. So let us begin with a story. And it is a story that is within my medium's mind, so he knows of it. There was a time that a lion cub grew up with a flock of sheep and lived as the sheep did. The cub played with the lambs and lived merrily all his days within the field, not knowing that the lion cub was in fact a lion, and he thought himself to be a sheep. But one day, an adult male lion appeared on the hill. And that lion looked down at the flock of sheep and saw the lion cub within the flock of lambs. The lion roared, scaring all the sheep until they ran away. But the call was enticing to the lion cub, as there was a familiarity that he could not place or know anything of. And having some sense of self and some courage, the cub walked towards the adult lion. The adult lion asked the cub, "What are you doing?" He said, "I am a sheep, and I am with the sheep." The adult said, "You are not. You are a lion, and you should behave like a lion." And the adult took the cub to the water to show him his reflection. And from that moment on, the cub started the journey to become his true self and stepped away from the sheep. There are many people that chase spirituality because they say it is a nice thing to do. And they gain this false impression of what spirituality is and attempt to live by what they believe it to be. In essence, they are just gaining another identity, a false impression of spirit and spirituality, and how a spiritual person should perform and what acts they should do. And this spirituality, this false spirituality, is really based on the needs of the ego. And therefore, it is very changeable, inconsistent, and has no real basis in truth, rather like the cub thinking he was a lamb. Yet the nag inside is still there for their truth to awaken. So their development has become lopsided. They are doing what they think they should do, but without any base of experience in what or who they are. So it's quite common that people have a need within them to have a connection to other people, which may be the basis of their spiritual journey. And that basis, if the ego becomes involved, may make the person falsely compliant to other people and have this false niceness because that's why they think they should be. But instead of compliance, they may actually become rebellious to other people and disagree with what they say and do in order to gain a bigger sense of self. Or alternatively, they may become very detached from other people to prove their independence, meanwhile seeking or hoping someone will come to find them in their cave. This false spirituality, born and living within the ego, is never satisfied, is always on shaky ground, always has the potential to show the opposite to the world, and is always for the need of the false aspirant at the expense of the other. So they may give because that's what looks good to them, to appease their egoic mind. But it's never based in the truth of giving. It's always giving so that they can receive, but they never receive enough. Therefore, have resistance or even challenge towards others. Because it's based in their own needs. I am nice to you now, so that you will be nice to me tomorrow, therefore affirming my identity, my spiritualness. And because of this, there are times that the very opposite emotion, the expression of false love, the opposite emotion may be stored within the subconscious mind to appear at some other time. Rather like the expression of independence, the opposite emotion of insecurity, laying dormant and may come to the surface at random time. Or the feeling of pure love, what they think it is, changing to anger or fear. At strange times. Now, there is nothing wrong, let me be clear, in wanting the connection of others. It is the pulling together of the individual self into the unified self. But it should be done completely and truly, as one that chases the expression of spirituality that isn't based in their true understanding will mean that that spirituality will live in time and, as a consequence, will come and go, will be friendly to your face and then angry behind your back. This is not a person you should follow your spiritual development with, as they have chased, and maybe acquired to some degree the spiritual expression, but not one based in truth. So again, they may thwart the very thing that will give them what they want as an egoic expression of an underlying value. So they may chase freedom, thinking that will give me love, and then not be willing to undertake a marriage because that will thwart the freedom, when in essence it may in fact give them the love that they truly desire. So in a previous talk, we said, do not ignore your negativities. The negativities within you may point out to you where your spiritual development may be a little lopsided, where you've acquired what you think you should be rather than actually who you are. Let us continue about the true path after our healing list of names. So may I have those names now, please, Brenda?
Brian Baskett, Tim Coulter Malata, Max, Tracy, Eric, Stephen, Matthew, Marianne, Jody, Jill, Katie, Mitch, Deborah, Cynthia, Lua, Bob and Doris, Denise and Steve, Kat, Guy and Helen, Ram and Wendy Beck, Suzette, Rose Frazier, Howard, Teresa, Suzanne and Stephanie, Hendrix, Lorna, Justin, and Courtney. Thank you.
Now, the healing list of names is for those which are unaligned, are not in their truth, and may be sitting in the pain of their body or mind. But I wish to add another list. And you may write to either person, to Brandon, or to the medium, if you prefer, with a wish for someone else. So a wish that someone may get, let us say, a job that they are hoping for. A wish that someone may find their way. A wish for your own peace. So if you wish to add a name of a person, and just a brief wish for them, then that list of names will also be read. And we will set the intention for that wish to become true. If it does become true or does not will be dependent on many other circumstances, of course. But this is a wish of love. And the world could do with more love. So let us return to our stories and our talk. So as said, some people gain a false spirituality and act, live, behave in a way which proves this spiritual identity, but it has no basis in the real truth. And so they achieve a modality, an expression. But this expression is always fickle and never solid and will change, sometimes here and sometimes not here, because their basis has not been in their true understanding of either themselves or spirit as a whole. So the true way is, of course, first to find your spiritual nature and let the expression come out of that discovery. You see that as the mind begins to withdraw from the physical world into the internal, and the mind starts to become consciousness, and the consciousness starts to discover the way the mind works. And this reveals a self, a spirit, which sees that the consciousness is actually has two and then a third aspect to it. So if you still your mind or attempt to, you will start to see that the conscious mind is the world of thought, and the subconscious mind is the world of feeling. And the real truth of consciousness is beyond both of these. So these are the consciousness within the individual mind and the true expression and feeling of spiritual consciousness beyond the individual. So the ego derives itself from the thought of who I am or who I should be. The feeling below that arises at the same time, but has more basis in truth. And the essence of self is still further. So one who is trapped within the thought of who I should be never achieves who they really are. but by going through the thought of who I should be, the feeling of heart arises, and the heart begins to open, and those following a spiritual journey start to express love. But if you are aware sufficiently and not trapped at this stage, you will form and discover a sense of being which is beyond both feelings and thought. Now, there is more complexity there to talk about. So let me explain it from a spiritual journey. One thinking they should be spiritual creates thoughts of how a spiritual person should behave. One who goes deeper, expresses the feelings of love and light into the world. And there tends to be more consistency when this is truly based in the truth of being beyond the thoughts of who you should be and what you should do. So the awakening of the heart becomes the second journey of the spiritual man. But hearts and emotions have the risk of also being changeable, and therefore are not based in the real truth of spirit, which is beyond both of these. Now, before we said, beware of your negativity and listen to your inner tendencies to awaken. Let that seed germinate for your truth. Let that seed come to the surface and flower in its truth. And not try to make it something it is not. So this true spiritual person lets go of the thoughts of who they think they should be when they discover their truth of connection, first felt within the heart, but exists beyond both heart and mind. And here then there is consistency of expression. And so in times of meditation, there are those which can follow that true sense of being. Which is beyond both the individual heart and mind. So one who gets grounded here, understanding of their spiritual connection, the expression of love is for the sake of the expression of love. Not for another, not even for self, but because that is who and what they are. So this person gives because there is love, not because there is a gain, an exchange. I love you, you will love me in return. because that is all that is meant to be done. So we took a few people on a journey into the understanding of themselves. And if you remember, that group or groups undertook a practice of meditation. Not solely to still the mind, although that is what starts to occur, but also to take them to their true self, to the door of their godliness. And let the expression of their spirituality come from that place. Again, not because there's any gain, but because that's just who they are. So you should be aware at times of when your practice, your spiritual practice, can be a little lopsided. That you express one way in the morning and the opposite in the afternoon. Where you give in the morning, expecting to receive in the afternoon. When you are love in the morning and have little self-esteem in the afternoon. You will see these false expressions of people as they become defensive of who they think they are. That act of defense is the act of protecting the false self. So at times when you feel your anger, your frustration arise, it is part of your humanness that allows this emotion to come to the surface. Be aware that it is coming. Be aware that it is here. But hold your presence in the truth beyond all of that. And that limiting or human emotion will pass all the quicker. But it is a signpost to something that is stored within you that could be expressed or removed. The secret, of course, is awareness and standing back a little, away from the human part of you. Away from the limited, changeable, inconsistent part of who you are. To be in the truth of your true lion magnificence. And as you practice your times of just being aware of the way you are, the way the emotions flow through you, just be aware of and recognize that you are just being aware of the emotion passing through you will give you more stability in the permanence rather than the changeable. The secret is watching. And if your practice is sufficiently advanced, holding your sense of being, no matter what occurs on the outside. So again, it is to be stable in what is permanent and aware of what is changeable. And this will allow the light to travel through you. So it is not a journey from head to heart. It starts there, but it goes much further. So it starts with ignore the thought, follow the feeling. And then after then, from the feeling to the sense of being. So where you are on your journey, wherever it is, that sense of being is one. That is the I am. That is where the unity is. Hence the great phrase, love thy neighbor as thyself. And that is where you will find it. Now, as was mentioned at other times before, an experiment occurred, and I said that there would be a light bulb moment for the medium during the week. In fact, there were two, both of them pointing in the same direction, both finding the connection of the future expression of what must be done. And there will be news about this in the coming time. I'm sure one or two or three of you would know of what this moment is. Now, so next week, if you wish names to be added to the healing list, please do. And if you wish to send a wish or a hope for a certain person, for a certain situation, including yourself, then please provide a second list called the wish list. Not too many words, please. Until then, come home to yourself. God bless you all.